I am a 32-year-old male realizing divorce might be the only way out for me. I would be lying if I said I was not nervous about going back to the dating world and being alone all the time again. Are other men here happy after a divorce? How was it trying to meet other people again? Story 1. It's not about being happy after divorce. It's about being happy to be out of a marriage that made you miserable and knowing you can live life on your own terms. However, if the marriage is miserable because of some issues you have, rather than your spouse, then you will be doomed to repeat them again. Therefore, I recommend some therapy as well. Story 2. Not a legal divorce since we never married, but we were together for 12 years. I have been single for a little over 3 months. I am much happier and more at peace than during the last year of our relationship. I have been on around 10 dates so far with different women. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it does not, but I honestly do not put any pressure on myself. I look at it like I am meeting new people who happen to be female. If we hit it off, great. If not, I thank them for the company and wish them the best in their search. It is exciting. When was the last time you could flirt with other women guilt-free? Story 3. Most divorced men I know improve every year. However, divorce, depression, and the financial difficulties it can cause are among the leading factors for male suicides. This affects a small percentage of all divorced men, but it is still significant. Story 4. At 41, it was the best thing that could happen to me. Took a while, but I finally realized that I gave up on myself way too much. I got back to the dating scene online and met a really great, supportive, and easygoing woman who is also in love with me. It was really hard to believe within the first year that my life was not over. Turned around completely. So don't give up and don't sell yourself short. Story 5. When I got separated, I did not realize how toxic my relationship was. I was sad and fought to keep it. Now, 5 years after the separation, I can say without a doubt that I am infinitely happier. My only regret is that I did not get divorced sooner. Story 6. Worth every penny, brother. Life is so much better. More money, more intimacy, less nagging, and less foolishness. Story 7. Yes, I have been through hard times, but I am immeasurably happier. I am proud of myself now. I am achieving all the things in life that I was once held back from achieving. I can take risks, travel, have relationships on my terms, and seek intelligent conversation. The future I have been dreaming of keeps coming closer. Story 8. People sometimes seem happier in the weeks and months following a divorce. They are traveling, going out, dating someone new and fascinating. They are living their best life and want you to know about it. Not throwing stones. I did that whole thing too, but it is ultimately empty. I see many people ask questions like this, all focused on their future romantic prospects, on meeting someone new. The someone new you have to meet first, at the risk of sounding cheesy, is yourself. Your romantic situation should not dictate your overall happiness level. That is how you get to real happiness. Story 9. Once my ex stopped trying to keep my daughter away from me, I have been happier than I have been in years. It is the best decision I have ever made. Story 10. When you escape a toxic marriage, you do not realize how toxic it was until you see it from the outside. I know there are many men who regret getting divorced, but I do not at all. I made the choice to show my children and myself that it is okay to put yourself as a priority, and I have not looked back. Story 11. When I first got divorced, I was lost. Just lost. It has taken almost 3 years. Having peace is the first joy. Story 12. Awful, terrible, destroyed. Many years of suicidal thoughts. Then got divorced. Started getting better after that. My biggest advice is to be social but do not date for at least 18 months, or you will marry soon to another mismatch. There is a deep setting in some of us with good intentions that lets us believe we are best when married, and it was just poor luck that the first partner was not the right one. But this new girl, who is just a decent person but is not a marriage match, seems like the one we were supposed to meet the first time. She is not, but your deeply disappointed heart cannot tell the difference. Your broken dreams and hurt heart are likely desperate for someone to show you that you really are a good, desirable man. That is valid, but it is very separate from the women who live within 10 minutes of you that you will now meet. some of whom are also hoping or secretly hoping to meet someone to validate their goodness. It is statistically very unlikely that the first or second or third woman you now meet will be your lifetime match. But it will very likely feel like she is. Story 13. Some men are crushed because they only worry about the financial loss. Otherwise, it is like freeing yourself from a barbed noose. To be yourself again is a terrific feeling. Story 14. If she does not have any of your children, do it immediately. Stop having sex for the love of God. If she is not the one, do not give her the opportunity to involve you in that situation. Story 15. Divorce was difficult while it was happening, but now it is the best decision I ever made. Peace and freedom are worth more than staying stuck in something toxic. Story 16. I know one colleague who went through a divorce at 29. He said that while he required about a year of therapy, he is generally happier now and enjoys life more. He has a daughter, and from my understanding, there isn't much hostility between the parents. They take turns caring for their daughter. It depends on whether you have children and the general dynamic between you and your spouse. Some divorces can be messy and prolonged by court cases and hostility. But if both partners decide it is the best option, those situations generally have a positive outlook for the mental well-being of both. Personally, I did not go through a divorce and did not marry, but I had a long-term relationship that became tense near the end. There were no arguments, but it was clear we were pushing each other away. When we decided to end the relationship, I felt freedom. It made me happier and more optimistic about the future. The same goes for my ex, with whom I still keep in contact. We still hang out and talk, but not in a romantic or sexual way, and we are both happier like that. Story 17. It is very draining financially, and I did it twice. Never again. I have lovely friends, but I will not marry any of them because as soon as you make that contract with the state, your money and your freedom are no longer yours. As soon as you marry, intimacy becomes a favor, restricted to birthdays and holidays. So yes, I am happier. My main regret is that my children suffered more than anyone because my ex used them as a pawn, pouring poison about me into their minds. Story 18. Leaving my abusive ex-wife made me noticeably happier. So much so that even coworkers were wondering what happened. It depends on each man's situation. I know one man who was devastated by his divorce and another who is going through a difficult time right now, trying to be reasonable with custody sharing with his ex-wife. Story 19. Oh my God. Totally me. What an absolute disaster of a decision that was. I am still paying for it. But whatever. I am free. Thank God. She was literally driving me insane. Much, much happier now. Story 20. Do you have children you are going to lose? Do you have a lot of money you are going to lose? Unless you lose your children or a large amount of money, from what I hear, you are almost guaranteed to be happier. Story 21. Dumped about 4 months ago. Life could not be better. The relationship was not great in many ways, and I would have stayed in it much longer because I would not have ended it until I was at my lowest point. Turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Getting dumped was literally such a good thing for me. It might turn out that way for you too. Being alone is not a bad thing. It is actually quite freeing. And when you are ready, just go for it. Many women in their 30s have children or are divorced. It is not a big deal in my opinion. Story 22. The day after my ex moved out was the happiest day of my life. She turned into her mother over the years and stole my mojo. I was usually never alone for a long time. I always had a girlfriend of sorts. When I started dating again in January, I realized that I fell into old dating habits and would go for the next mistake relationship-wise. I think I really have to stop and master my own life alone first, to be truly happy alone. But I am also a single dad now with a mortgage, and I am 50 years old working in a dying profession. I try not to worry about these things too much, but I am not through just yet. Considering the way my marriage was heading, I am 100% sure if we had waited until my son grew up, it would have ended in a catastrophe. Story 23. I did not want the divorce. I was blindsided. However, I am much happier now than I was in my marriage, which I thought at the time was functioning. Takes time. Story 24. It all depends on what you do. If you move forward and improve your health and career, your life will be much better. If you continue to question, it will not. Your intuition has brought you this far. Keep moving forward. Story 25. You become addicted to the peace, quiet, and freedom. So much so that you cannot imagine how you lived without it for so long. These will become your greatest values. I am 100 times happier than I was in my marriage. I felt like a smothered slave, always on eggshells in my marriage, like I was never good enough. I have leveled up in every conceivable way since the divorce. That tends to happen once the burden is removed from around your neck. Story 26. I wish I had done this a decade earlier. Now I am older. I date but have no interest in moving in with anyone at this stage in my life. Had I left when the marriage soured instead of trying to make it work for a decade, maybe I would be thinking about starting a family. I have no children. Now I am just enjoying waking up in the morning and being responsible only for my own day. Story 27. The decision depends on who initiates the divorce. Do you decide based on whether you still want to live with her or whether you prefer not to live alone? Story 28. I would say less miserable. Happiness comes from hobbies and talking with friends. Divorce is something that can take away this dull pain. Story 29. I was happy in my marriage and am much less frustrated after it. I consider it a success, even though it ended after 15 years. I had fun, many good times, and we were intimate almost every day even after the separation. The reality was that she was miserable. She felt like she was in a cage and all she wanted to do was see the world, which we did a lot together, but she felt like she missed out on her early 20s. In the divorce, we used her reasoning that she felt trapped and restricted by being a parent and a stay-at-home mother to argue that I would be the more suitable parent, and I won. I am as happy as it gets raising my children, and I am still on speaking terms with her, but the children are less and less willing to spend time with her because, according to them, she is not a good influence. I wanted my family, and it worked. I would not have agreed so easily if that had not been an obvious option. Story 30. I am divorced myself. Every other divorced man I have spoken to here said they were happier. Some said it took at least a year, but there were no exceptions. Everyone said they ended up happier. I am too. Story 31. I was deviated, walking away from my wife, guttural crying. It was such a range of emotions, and I felt liberated and lost. Dust didn't settle before I was happier. A few weeks later, I had my first casual hookup. I wasn't divorced before I met a great person, and more than 20 years later, we are still together. Story 32. So much happier. People say marriage is work, but it should not be that much work. I met someone else and realized I was not the problem. Story 33. I never got married, but I had 2 long-term relationships, which I ended. Life is absolutely amazing. More intimacy, more money, more time for myself, and no one to shout at me or belittle me. I highly recommend it. Story 34. My divorce was in my mid-20s. We had been married for 5 years, and the marriage was going downhill fast. To summarize, I was the only one trying to improve it while my ex-wife was content with it being bad. So eventually, I filed for divorce and the rest is history. Am I happier? Yes. I found someone who puts as much into a relationship as I do. I was bummed out for a while after the divorce, but you heal over time. Story 35. I never heard a man say, "My divorce is falling apart." The strength of a divorce grows the longer it lasts. It is like a piece of oak. Divorce is forever. It really is. Story 36. I would give up the home I own now, all my money, and start a new career living in a tent. There seems to be little reason for marriage. Story 37. After the original shock of being abandoned, I have adjusted, stopped looking, and am the happiest I have ever been in my life. Story 38. 40-year-old male incredibly happy to be single and living life. Occasionally, it can get lonely, but I have many hobbies and I travel frequently. Story 39. 41 years old and happily divorced. Loving my best life on my own. Absolutely no chance I would ever get married again. I enjoy my peace of mind and drama-free life too much. Story 40. My fiancé was divorced after less than a year of marriage. Believe me when I say he was thrilled to meet me. Story 41. It took me a year to recover. I am much happier now. Life is full of possibilities, and my new partner is a much better match. Story 42. I am a man whose wife abused me for 8 years during our 12-year marriage before she finally left. After about a year of working on myself, I am much happier. Story 43. I was happier after I left an unfaithful wife and was on my own, but the happiest when I remarried the right woman. Story 44. I am happier after divorce than I was in that marriage, but that does not mean I would not be happier in a marriage with the right person. Dating is difficult at our age, or at least it has been for me. I am heavily involved in my daughter's life. She stays at my house most nights during the school year, and I see her almost daily after work even when she does not. So dating is tougher there, and at our age, the pool is challenging. We are all divorced or have some other trauma to deal with. I will not say it will be all fun, but it will be better than being in an unhappy marriage because now you can have hope. Story 45. I was with her for 30 years, not a legal marriage, but almost the same where I am. It got worse every year. At some point, I gave up trying to make her happy. I thought it would be easier to squeeze blood from a stone than that. Over the years, I reclaimed parts of my past that I gave up to be with her. When she said, "Get the F out," I had to sell all my toys to get a place of my own. The first day was very difficult. The first week was not much better. Within a few months, I was happy to date, but she recently wanted a ring and was not okay with a prenuptial agreement, so I am alone again. I would not describe it as happier than when I was with my ex. Not that I was happy then, but I will say I am more relaxed, more peaceful, calm, content with what I have, hopeful and free to be myself, to laugh at fart jokes and do what I like. I am not nervous when I hear the phone ring or afraid I have done some mystery transgression that earned me a silent night or screaming. There is a long list of things I do not have to do just to keep the peace now too. I do not think I would use the term happier to describe life after divorce, but I will say life is much better after the first couple of weeks. That initial adjustment period is rough. Story 46. I'm in your position right now too. I turn 50 in a few weeks. My wife decided to tell me in couples therapy a couple of months ago that she was done. I'm still furious, but I'm also scared and unsure about what's next after 16 years. What do I do now? Dating is so different. I feel dating apps have a stigma, right? I guess it's just what people do now. What do you think about Tinder, Bumble, and similar apps? Story 47. I'll start by saying that if your relationship can be remedied and healed, you should try to do it. However, depending on your situation and what prompted your thoughts toward potential divorce, it takes both of you to really work at it, probably harder than you ever have before. If you have children, definitely do all you can to fight for full or at least 50-50 custody. Do not let the child support or alimony system take advantage of you, because it can and will. Men go to jail, lose their livelihoods, and too often their lives after being pushed through the difficulties of family courts. If you do not have children and only share financial assets, unless the relationship can be salvaged, it is easier to part with possessions than to remain attached to a difficult soon-to-be ex-spouse. A man can always rebuild wealth and replace possessions that once seemed important. Stuff is not life. It is just a part of it and a tool to help life move along. Maintaining our soul and humanity is more important. That said, resolving the relationship should always be the primary goal, if possible. As for myself, I am not happier after divorce, but it could be argued that I am less miserable. My divorce woke me up to many aspects of male and female nature, areas where I had been naive and areas where I was standing up for myself instinctively, even when I did not realize it at the time. Since then, I have had to grow significantly compared to where I was. I am wiser for having gone through it out of necessity, but there is truth to the saying, ignorance is bliss. The more a man learns, the less happy he tends to be, partly because he realizes how much he still does not know. Then people with less experience attempt to give you relationship advice, and I do my best to remain polite and not come off as unappreciative. Even when handled calmly, divorce is truly something you do not understand until you experience it. I am not the person I used to be, which leaves me with mixed emotions. In some ways, I have mourned that person. In others, I feel strengthened and encouraged to have a better understanding of how the world works, knowledge most people never consider because they do not have to. Good luck. Story 48. I was eventually successful. Took a couple of years. I was working full-time and raising 2 children by myself, so it was tough for a while. Story 49. Women can be difficult and selfish at times. I do not understand why someone would want to enter a contract with them, only to have their life made difficult and lose their possessions. Story 50. It was 2016. I was 29 at the time, now 38. The woman I thought was the one had become addicted to drugs, pills, and just about anything you could inject or take. We had 2 children together. She put me through hell by pawning things to feed her addiction and taking money on payday before I could pay bills. One evening, the Department of Children and Families came knocking on my door because she showed up high at her doctor's office trying to get pills with one of our children. I had had enough. The divorce was messy and overly dramatic. She decided to fight since her family had some money and still believed her manipulative lies. After paying $10,000 and gaining full custody of my kids, I am the happiest man alive. She missed court dates and was high the one time she showed up. The last thing my lawyer said to me as I was writing the final check was, "Do you know why divorces are so expensive?" I asked why. He said, "Because they are worth it." I will never forget how right he was. That said, make sure divorce is really what you want to do. Talk to your wife. Try counseling. If it fails, then do what you must. Women can be difficult these days. You are better off single and at peace, my brother. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.